A very warm welcome to the executive interview on introspecting the destination management practices in Karnataka. This interview is conducted with the goal of probing into the objectives of the major research project. To give us more insight on the destination management practices followed in Karnataka, I have the honor to introduce our eminent guest, Mr. Arvind Jadha, IAS and the former Additional Chief Secretary, Tourism, Government of Karnataka. Mr. Jadha has a vast experience of about 30 years in the government and public sector, including tourism, aviation, energy, gas, coal, thermal electricity, project financing, industrial and infrastructure development and promotion, international trade, etc. He has served as CEO of federal and provincial level organizations in aviation, energy, finance, minerals, housing and urban development and textiles. He is currently the chairman of Karnataka Appellate Tribunal. We are sure that his expansive knowledge and expertise will lend character and depth to the research project. This session is handled by the principal investigator of the major research, Dr. Bindi Varghese. She is an associate professor from the Department of Tourism Studies. Dr. Bindi has completed her MPhil from Pondicherry University and her PhD from Bangalore University. Let us now watch the executive interview of Mr. Arvind Jadha in conversation with Dr. Bindi Varghese.
A very warm welcome, sir. Today we are introspecting destination management practices in Karnataka. And firstly, I would like to know how familiar is this concept of destination management organization to you?
Okay. At the outset, I'd like to thank Christ University for having given me the opportunity, and I'd like to warm welcome to all my audience out here. And thanks again once again for giving me the opportunity to be here. As regard destination management organization you are talking about, well, I was Additional Chief Secretary Tourism, looking after it for about 2.5 years, and I can tell you that even though as a concept it may not be there in the system, but the components of the system are very well embedded in the thought process of the government.
Okay.
The government, especially the state government of Karnataka, or whether it is government of India or any other state government, would like to make sure that there is a proper destination management systems in position. The idea being is that you are required to have a high footfall in the destination.
Okay.
How do you attract high footfall?
Yeah.
And for how many days you want to attract them? It's only for half an hour, for a whole day, for a week, for a month. So, depending upon the objective of how you want to bring them in here, the management practices have to change accordingly.
Okay.
Unfortunately for government, many a times they think that the entire state of Karnataka or the entire state itself is a destination, and they try to look at the destination management for the state.
Okay.
And that is where you start hunting for and searching for where is the DMO. So, the DMO at a national level is the Ministry of Tourism.
Correct.
Okay. And the DMO at the state level is the State Tourism Department. But this is not helping you.
Correct.
Because it is not actually reaching where the tourist actually wants to reach.
True.
At the end of the day, when the tourist reaches the destination, he finds what all was told at the state level is missing at the granular level.
Correct.
It is not that the state or India or the nation or the country and all that is one destination.
Okay.
The problem is that we think it is one destination, but there are multiple destinations, and that is where your research is very relevant, where you are in a position to say that there is a need first for identifying what should be the critical level or mass for a destination.
Okay.
Is it a single building destination? Is it a group of buildings destination? Is it a single activity destination, or is it a group of activity destination? For example, if it is going to be a single activity, then that activity has to be part of some other activity. So, therefore, the criticality of the destination management comes through.
Okay.
If you are looking at a professional approach for marketing a destination, then there should be a critical mass available for the resource to be able to service
Okay.
the marketing and the management.
Okay.
If it is not possible, then it will break down. This is the issue which is coming up. For example, in Karnataka, let us say Hampi.
Okay.
Framework for Hampi for destination management is available. There is a Hampi World Heritage Management Authority. This authority is supposed to do exactly what is required in a DMO.
Okay. Yes.
Okay. Have they moved from the theoretical and the legal framework to the next step?
Okay.
In order to move to the next step, this authority has to be empowered.
Correct.
If
That's
the
not prime
empowerment is
challenge.
not there in this authority, then it will become little difficult
Yeah.
for anybody and everybody to move.
Correct.
There may be requirement of a large number of private players who will provide for those services
True.
which the DMO wants.
Correct.
The DMO itself cannot provide all the services. So, it has to identify what it can provide as a DMO and what services has to be provided by the private sector.
Yeah. Just being a facilitator.
No, it has to be a coordinator and a aggregator and a facilitator and a supportive structure
Correct.
where it allows for a revenue plan to be consistent and it should be sustainable.
Correct.
Without the Hampi World Heritage Management Authority, any amount of work done around that one may not have sustainability.
Correct. Economic
So,
sustainability is most
my
important.
request would be is that when you look at a DMO, you can probably in this research take that particular authority as a case study and suggest what all needs to be done, in which the role of each of the components is very clearly maintained.
Okay.
For example, let us take it that there is a concept for Hampi by night. Okay. If you visit Hampi,
Yeah.
you can visit Hampi during the daytime. You will spend half a day to a day in Hampi. But if you stay there from evening onwards, sunset onwards, till next day sunrise, you have nothing to be done.
Okay.
So, you can't keep a tourist idle for whole night. He has left his place and come to visit and experience Hampi.
True.
So, he would require something in the evening to keep himself busy. So, Hampi by night is a component which should be provided in the destination management.
Okay.
Then it makes worthwhile for him. And if Hampi by night has two components, means day 1 is a different presentation,
Yeah.
day 2 is a different presentation, the tourist will stay for 2 days.
True.
Okay. Once he stays there, we have to look at how we keep him busy 24 hours, and each hour is a new business opportunity. Now, if you look at the DMO there, which is legally set up, this DMO is not in a position to engage the tourist for more than 4 hours.
Okay.
The balance 20 hours, it does not know how to handle the tourist. The tourist has to be kept engaged.
Okay. Just to add on a little, sir, we are looking at DMO as a governing body who can be a facilitator, as you said, who can be an aggregator, all that, serving the purpose of marketing and management for an economic sustainability.
Yes, same. I am coming to that only. I am coming to
Yeah.
that. Hampi, as on date today, gets around 1 million visitors. Okay.
Yeah.
These million visitors, they come there and spend only a day.
Correct.
Okay. So, 1 million nights are spent there. But the potential of this particular place is more than 10 million.
Yeah.
We instead of 1 million nights, we require 10 million nights. The infrastructure for 10 million nights is not coming because they feel that 1 million night itself is not sufficient. The criticality of a new accommodation we brought in, some other activities we brought in has to be done. We take Hampi itself, you take a case study of Hampi. Hampi has water. Water based sports activities, adventure activities can be done. Hampi is rocky. So, rock climbing, rock adventures can be done. Hampi has wildlife. You can do Hampi air balloon wildlife safari, you can do a ground level safari.
Yeah.
Okay. Hampi has got living villages which is 400 years old. Anegundi.
Yeah.
So, you can spend a whole day there in looking at knickknacks and all the this one and interact with the locals there as to how Hampi could have looked 400 years back at the time of Vijayanagar kingdom. All this I am telling you which is not promoted by Hampi.
True.
Okay. Lastly, if you really look at Hampi today, Hampi is a world class heritage center for the Vijayanagar ruins, which is architecturally important,
Correct.
worldwide
Historically and
recognized.
architecturally.
But what people do not know is it is equally popular for wildlife sanctuary. It is the only sloth bear sanctuary in the country. People do not know. Rock climbing, night on the rocks under the sky, water based sports activities and ventures, and cultural this one. The last one which is not known important is that this location is mythologically very important in Ramayana,
Yeah.
the Skanda Purana, the life and story of Lord Hanuman. The entire story of life and story of Hanuman in mythological Ramayana is enacted in this area. Whether it was Lord Hanuman's childhood, whether it was the fight between Bali and Sugriv in which Rama supports Sugriv, whether it is the first landing of Sita from when she is taken back home and she has to do her first bath is here. So, the entire story related to Skanda Purana is in Hampi.
Yeah.
So, we could develop
Yeah.
this
there's-
area into a
yeah.
massive DMO promotion
Yeah.
to keep the tourists engaged for a week.
Yeah. So there's one point to add there. What happens is that most of the times the facilitators, when they promote a destination, maybe they see a pulse of program which can give a better mileage to the destination, be it the architecture, history for Hampi as a destination. But to a large extent, we've also observed with most of the cities in India as such, with a poor social media web presence, that has taken a lot of opportunity from the mind of the visitors.
No. I would not agree with that one. I
Okay.
definitely would not agree with that. What I am trying to point out is if Hampi is given to a group who are tourism specialists,
Okay.
okay, and who have been given this particular thing that we are looking at Hampi as an economic sustainable project, then things change. For example, Angkor Wat is one of the successful examples of DMO at the international level. Angkor Wat temple complex is as big or as small or a little smaller than Hampi. It supports 12,000 rooms. It supports a night market. Okay.
Yeah.
It supports all night discotheques. It supports 6,000 auto rickshaw walas, tuk-tuks, cycle rickshaws, and it supports 6,000 guides. Now, if we really look at that in Hampi and look at all the entire thing together, the art, architecture, handicrafts, textiles, culture, mythology, adventure and all that put together, Hampi on its own, if it is taken up as a DMO in a proper sense, can support more than 1 million people.
True, very true.
This is precisely what you are trying to look into your DMO.
Yeah.
So, I am just trying to tell you that though the concept is available on my high end, it has not been converted into practicality.
Correct.
So, one of the issues which you can take up is what should be an ideal DMO be? Okay?
Yeah.
And where is the Hampi authority? Okay, this is the first set.
Product based.
No, because Hampi is a destination.
Yeah.
To what extent Hampi is matching the DMO, ideal DMO, and to what extent is away from the DMO, for each aspect, what it has to do in order to come closer to DMO.
Okay.
So, that itself will be available, and I think government will be very, very receptive to the idea of an university like yours associating with the Hampi this one or DMO. There is a second concept also which we were trying to push for DMO management based upon what you are talking about, is that it's a proposal is there in the government for setting up a Hoysala trust
Okay.
based in Halebeedu, Belur Halebeedu. Now, that some amount of work has been done in that, some of the people have been involved in that one, and both Shrishti International
Yeah.
and Institute for Rural for Urban Sustainability, they both these institutions are involved in that one.
Okay.
So, hopefully, if that comes up, they will be given the same amount of empowerment which is lacking in Havama. So, the idea is this, that you change, you bring down, you disaggregate the problem. Do not go for a nationwide DMO, it is not going to help you.
Yeah, yeah. That's why we brought it specific to Karnataka, because we have
even in Karnataka also, you break it down and take some 4 destinations with 4 different models.
Okay.
And in your DMO, you have to be very clear what activity has to be in the private domain and what activity cannot be in the public domain.
Public domain. Okay.
If that clarity is not there,
Okay.
then everybody is going to stamp over somebody else's feet.
Okay, that's exactly my next question. So, when we researched more on DMO, we found that globally there are different kind of structures of DMO. So, I am very keen in knowing what would be the, in your opinion, would be a right government framework which can be ideally fitting into the profile of Karnataka
See,
for DMO.
no, I understand that there are quite a number of acts and rules which prohibit anybody to take up any activity in a particular manner, and the authorities which are there in those particular places,
Yeah.
they have a problem on hand. They look at it as more as a conservationist and a regulatory function. They do not look at it from the point of view as to how and they should handle the visitors. They are very, very efficient while dealing with the VIP visitors. The service they provide to a VIP visitor is what is expected from them to provide to a normal visitor. So, I have been a votary of at the Government of India level also and the state level also, that organizations who are dealing with this destination which is coming under their control on account of an act statutorily,
Okay.
they need to understand how a visitor management facility has to be set up. I am not asking that they should understand, look for accommodation for the visitor, they should look for food and shelter for the visitor, not that. I am saying that the destination per se, the information which is required and the manner in which the whole thing has to be made available, if that visitor management facility is embedded,
Yeah.
then the first step towards this happens. The regulatory authorities and the government should not go beyond the visitor management.
Okay.
Beyond that, everything is commercial. So, all that balanced commercial should be run by the private sector, because they are more efficient in utilizing the resources. For example, let me put it like this. There is a place, a destination. In an hour, more than 1,000 people are coming. There is nowhere to eat. There is no toilet. But it does not mean that the 1,000 people who are coming there are going to just simply come there and go. They are definitely going to have some water, children are there, somebody would like to have something eatable, people are exhausted, they would like to have some snacks. Now, that restaurant, if it is run by government, is going to fail.
True.
So, what it requires is that it requires an efficient food court there, and the food courts can run only if they are run on a very, very individualistic and on a very private sector way. But the relationship between the private sector which is running that particular thing and the visitor management facility should be very clear cut written. It should not happen that the food court person is interfering in the visitor management,
Yeah.
and the visitor management is interfering in the food
Mutually supportive.
court. So, that exclusivity and that clarity, if it is maintained, probably then we can start looking at various services which are required. For example, car parking. Car parking can be regulatory, but to maintain a car park, the regulator is unable to do it because he does not have the funds. But if the car park is privatized and the visitor, the government says exactly how the car parking should be done here, there is regulation that no car parking should be anywhere else, then this private car park can succeed.
Okay.
But if the private car park puts charges you 10 rupees and the visitor management facility, the government there, the authority there allows car parking everywhere else, it will not work.
Yeah.
So, the roles have to be very clear.
Okay.
So, if the car park comes up there, the car park facility, he will run a food court. So, he is able to subsidize the maintenance of the car park. You require lighting,
Yeah.
because night time parking may be there. You require proper slots for parking, ease of access of the vehicles to come in and go, buses to be segregated out of the cars, taxis to be separated out of the cars, and if there is a ticket issue and all that, it should be available near the car park itself. If there is an information booklet available, it should be there. If there are some toilets around also, it should be available there. So, what happens is the whole thing comes into the car park. But if you do not give this particular legal support to the car park,
Yeah.
and car can be parked anywhere else, and the biggest defaulters are the VIPs.
That is the exact.
So, therefore,
problem.
what happens? The authority is unable to control.
Yeah.
If it is controlled and put to the car park is a private sector. Whosoever wants to run it, let it run it. Similarly, souvenir shops. Government can't run a souvenir shop.
True.
The pricing will be difficult, the product may not be available. If the product is available, qualitatively will be bad, something will happen.
Yeah.
So, what happens is then in a destination management, first and the foremost, the destination management authority has to understand that for how long they want the visitor to be in that area.
Okay.
So,
to-
in the DMO, these are the issues which you need to identify
addresses.
and tell who should do what services.
Okay.
If you keep silent on the car parking, the problem would be that the car park will be run by the government.
Okay. So, to add on to this, do you feel the government administration has to a large extent affected the timely implementation of state level tourism policies?
See, let me put it like this way. Tourism is a highly private sector oriented sector. It requires the ability of the service provider to give a satisfaction to the individual. And why a person comes to that particular destination, one is not very clear. Even if he wants to come to Hampi, he may be coming to Hampi to relive the 400-year-old culture in that village. And for him or her, Hampi, visiting Hampi buildings is not important as much as staying in the village. The other gentleman would like to come and would like to spend time on looking at the architecture itself. So, therefore, government cannot segregate, and government is not at all in the position to understand the nuances of the tourist requirement.
Okay.
So, therefore, what happens is the government should only be a facilitator. I am again coming back to the same thing again.
Yeah.
For example, let us say Christ University is here and this is a tourist destination because of all what facilities you are provided for.
Yeah.
The Christ University as a management is busy in trying to give qualitative education. Okay. It is not in the business of promoting Christ University as a tourist destination. At the most, what you can do is you will form rules as to when and how a tourist can come to visit this particular place.
Okay.
Okay. But if the tourist requires food, entry, this and all that, somebody else has to do the job.
Okay.
So, the agreement between the university and the tourist provider has to be very clear so that he gets access to you.
Okay.
But if he does not have an agreement, you will not allow him to come. So, every day near your gate, there will be a problem. Now, you have to understand that if you are going to allow a tourist inside your organization, university here, then there is going to be a car parking problem. You all say, I have not put up a university for car parking for tourists. So, then the tourist has to be told, okay, you can only come in a shuttle. We can allow only 2 shuttles a day.
That's where visitor management and
Facility.
handling demand comes in.
How to
Yeah.
handle?
Yeah.
How to handle, how to take them around. So, that what happens is, no tourist is going to come to the university unless he comes in a special shuttle. Once the shuttle comes, everybody knows is there a tourist.
Yeah.
So, they go around everywhere, they come to the cafeteria, they use the loo, the washrooms,
So
they have a food and they are happy because they have seen everything and gone.
Okay. So, in practicality what happens is, this concept actually doesn't work in most of our resources, most of our destinations.
again I will put it like that way, some attempts have been done in the wildlife area.
Okay.
Not because they wanted to do it, but it so happened.
Okay.
The Government of India, the Environment Ministry, the Supreme Court, everybody is very clear about it, the environmentalists and all, that you should not get into the forest 24/7. Only one portion of the forest will be kept open,
Okay.
where the tourists can come, visit and go. And they cannot come in their vehicles. Their vehicles may be the best vehicles probably, but no, it has to be in a shuttle.
Yeah.
Therefore, what happens is that is regulated. Now, if that was done more professionally and it was made available on the web to the worldwide over how to go about doing it, then the DMO would be the Bandipur wildlife, this one would be a proper efficient DMO.
Correct.
Today, you have to look at the Bandipur project tiger and look at it whether it has got the parameters in which it can succeed to become a DMO. Mysore Palace Authority, again a beautiful destination.
Yeah.
How do you manage it? Brindavan, another beautiful destination.
Yeah.
How do you manage it?
This is where the need for destination management appears.
That is why what happens is, if the Brindavan Authority, like worldwide over, all destinations are having local authorities.
Okay.
Whereas in India, the local destination do not have a local authority. Even if the local authority is there, it has part empowerment.
Okay.
It has the empowerment to close the dam,
Okay.
but it does not have the empowerment to promote the dam. It has empowerment to restrict the tourists, but does not have the empowerment to make sure that the tourist is properly taken care of. It is the empowerment to regulate the vehicles, but does not have the wherewithal to handle car parking. So, therefore, what happens is, with any empowerment and all that, the local district manager, this one has to identify. Again the same thing comes up, who shall run the car parking in Brindavan garden? Where should the food come? Who is going to handle the garbage? How will the garbage solid waste management take place?
So there has to be
How
a
the lighting,
manifesto which will
how is the
make all
lighting
this-
to be done? Most of the time, car parking which is done after the show is over, all the people from Brindavan have to leave at around 8 o'clock.
Okay.
At 8 o'clock in the night, from Brindavan, the traffic congestion is so high that to get out of that car parking area itself, it will take 2 hours. So, by the time you actually leave Brindavan, it is 10 o'clock.
Yeah.
So, you make then a mad race to the city, Bangalore. But if the car parking is done and as parameters put, you can come into the park your car, and when you want to exit, within 10 minutes you can exit the car park.
So these were the areas which we wanted DMO to look at.
Yeah. Therefore, I am saying again, when you look at a DMO, you have to be very clear as to what are the roles and responsibilities and activities of DMO.
Yeah.
Let us say there are 15 activities or 25 activities. On each activity, how it has to be handled. Then you have to club similarly placed activities into a commercial venture.
Okay.
And then the regulator, that is the Karnataka Trade Facilitation Act or Karnataka Tourism Policy or the local authority or the local municipality, all these will people put together, they have to understand their role. But let me tell you one thing, if the revenue is not shared properly, most of the DMOs will fail.
True.
So, what ultimately comes up is, how do you do the revenue sharing? To what extent you are going to put in subsidy? To what extent you are going to put in a grant? And to what extent you are going to put in incubation seed money? These are the issues which will come up.
So in your opinion, what should be the face of DMO? It should be backed by government, or it should be an independent body, or it should be completely looked and governed by a private segment?
No, I will put it like this way, it has to be an authority in which there are representation of both the service providers and the government put together.
Okay, great.
Otherwise, it won't work.
It doesn't work. Okay.
For example, take Nandi Hills. Nandi Hills is a department of horticulture. Horticulture has to have first and the foremost, how does it handle the visitors? If it has a visitor management policy in position, it should not run the cafeteria. It should be very clear as to how the car parking should be done, but it should not run the car parking. Its ticketing and all that should take care of the electricity management and water management and other issues in the hand. Yes, we know any destination cannot have more than 1 million visitors probably. There is a sustainability or carrying capacity. So, first thing the DMO will have to look at it is, under the present circumstances, what would be the carrying capacity?
Okay.
When you are looking at the carrying capacity, you should understand that the people who are coming there are not going to come by walk. They are all going to come by a transportation. So, when you are looking at the carrying capacity, you have to look at the carrying capacity and also the vehicular carrying capacity. The vehicular carrying capacity will determine how many visitors will come actually there. We work the other way around. We wait for the crowd to come. We would not have managed the entry, and then after that we start looking at how to solve the problem of the stranded people.
Yeah. So, the whole complexity becomes when ownership of assets
it becomes an ad hoc exercise.
Yeah.
It becomes an ad hoc exercise in trying to sort out the problems of stranded tourists.
Okay.
I will put it, that is the DMO in India now.
Yeah.
Whether it is Qutub Minar, whether it is the Taj Mahal, whether it is the Kana World Wildlife Sanctuary or Ranthambore Wildlife Sanctuary, or whichever it is, the issue which comes up is simple, that A, the carrying, any DMO if it has to start work first, has to start with what should be the carrying capacity under various technological inputs.
Okay. So, today being a time where you have internet being a phase of marketing a destination, how would your opinion on the web presence of Karnataka?
Web presence of Karnataka is little poor. Is little poor.
I am looking at being an interactive forum and an updated forum for visitors to connect with the destinations.
I'll
So,
put
what are
it
your
no, no.
suggestions?
My takeoff is very different on this one. I do not look at government of Karnataka to be web savvy and starts dealing with the and trying to make his presence in the internet to a large extent and having a team of people to do all this one. I would not like to do that. I would look forward to actually competition between various destinations in Karnataka. For example, let me put it like this: can Halebeedu and Belur under the brand Hoysala compete with the Hampi, which is Vijayanagar? Between the two, there is a Chitraduga fort. Whether the Chitraduga fort can manage to attract the spillover from Hampi and Halebeedu. Okay. Now, if Chitraduga is on the website, the Chitraduga fort is on the website. It is one of the most very beautiful forts available in a very natural state and all that one, and very popular amongst the European destination. Waiting for a DMO, and its presence has to be on the web. Karnataka does not have to be on presence on the web. How do we reach Chitraduga is an issue. How do we reach Hampi is an issue. If we are going to say Karnataka and Karnataka tries to push forward for being on the web, what will happen is everybody has to come to Hampi via Bangalore. Okay. But if Hampi promotes itself on the web, you can come from Goa to Hampi, you can come from Hyderabad to Hampi, you can come from Bangalore to Hampi, you can come from Pune to Hampi. Now, you suddenly see where Hampi positions itself. Today, when Karnataka promotes Hampi, the only gateway to Hampi is Bangalore. So, therefore, what happens is anybody who wants to visit Hampi, they will have to tag Hampi to a Karnataka visit. But there is a possibility that tourists who come to Hyderabad can tag Hampi to them. Tourists who come to Pune and drive down into Maharashtra can tag Hampi to them. People who are coming to Goa, they can tag Hampi to them. So, why should Hampi lose 3 more gateways? For example, what is the problem in Indian tourist destination, this one? When Government of India promotes tourism all over the world and all that one, it gives various places. But the entry point for India is always Delhi.
Yeah, the global face.
Yeah, the global face is Delhi. The moment you land in Delhi, which is the first tourist destination you are going to see? Taj.
Yeah.
If nothing else, if you have got 6 hours, you will visit Taj. You have 12 hours, you will go to Jaipur. Okay. And you got about 4 days, then you do the whole golden triangle.
That's extensive marketing probably which has worked for.
No, no, it's not working that way.
Yeah.
What is happening is when India is promoting and putting the entire money behind Delhi, like it or not, Golden Triangle gets the advantage.
Okay.
Because Government of India is not promoting tourism in a manner that saying that the gateways to India are Chennai, Bangalore, Trivandrum, Mumbai, Calcutta, Delhi. It doesn't say that.
Yeah.
So, where in the India's
So with a good social presence, these gateways can be made open.
obviously, but it is for Havama to do it, no?
Yeah.
Government of Karnataka will not do it. Government of Karnataka has to divide the resources between Halebeedu, Mysore, Bangalore, Chitraduga, Hampi, everybody. But if a DMO, an independent DMO is there
Yeah.
in Hampi with its own revenue resources,
Great.
then it will start exploiting everything else.
Okay. Sir, on the whole, I also would like to know destination management mechanisms like demarketing, where tourists are diverted from a very populated place to not so popular destinations. Any such in your observation which has come as a strategy to you from the government side?
No,
Or-
there is a strategy, there is a strategy, but it was, the Karnataka Tourism Vision Group also had a look at it very clearly on the hand.
Okay.
The issue which comes up is we had started a campaign known as the lesser known destinations of Karnataka. Tourists who want to come to Karnataka repeat, they don't want to go to Hampi again and again.
Yeah.
So, what happens is we need to target, as a strategy we should target repeat customers. If you have visited Karnataka once, now come to the lesser known destinations of Karnataka
Okay.
as a strategy. The first timer who was coming to Karnataka and I tried to take him to Yana. When he goes back, people say, have you visited Hampi? And he says, I have not visited Hampi. Then what have you visited in Karnataka is going to come up. You get the point?
Yeah.
So, therefore, what happens is first need of Karnataka is identify 4 or 5 DMOs, destinations, which have the ability, the capability, the competency, the authority and the potential to be what is known as a 10 million visitor destination.
Correct.
So, if in Karnataka we identify 4 such destinations, 10 million visitors, they come there once. The first thing is attract them to come there. Second point should be they should stay there. Third point is they should stay for more than 2 days.
Yeah.
So, moment we are able to move the tourists into a 2-day affair, the lesser known destinations transfer will happen.
So are you like facing it like first phase when the prominent destinations of Karnataka are seen, then the second phase the repeat clientele could go to less popular destination?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
No, no. We should work it differently. The point is that we have only 500,000 foreign visitors coming to Karnataka.
Correct.
If we have to make it into 1 million visitors, or let us say we want to make it 10 million visitors, what is happening today is out of the 500,000 visitors who are coming, they all concentrate on only in Hampi or Mysore.
Yeah.
So, other destinations not being developed. So, we will have to develop a circuit with 4 such destinations who have the capacity and the potential to service 1 million visitors.
Okay.
If we do not have that 1 million visitor servicing facility, behind that we require accommodation, behind that we require transportation, behind that we require a huge amount of people who are involved in cultural presentations and all that one.
Okay.
All that entire thing is required. So, if it is a 10 million, if it is going to be a 1 million visitor, international visitor destination, it will require something like about 30,000 people engaged there, 365 days.
Yeah.
Do we have it? Who all have to do it? So, therefore, what happens is the Karnataka tourism policy is a facilitating framework for the state, but it has to be broken down into policy for Hampi,
Okay.
policy for Bijapur, policy for Hoysala, policy for Mysore, policy for the coastal.
Okay.
So, then therefore, what happens is people know, the investors also know, the service providers also know. What do we expect if I am going to be doing some work in the coastal DMO?
Okay.
Today, Karwar is going to talk differently, Udupi is going to talk differently, Mangalore is going to talk differently, and Bangalore is going to tell differently.
Okay.
So, 4 different places. What you really require is a coastal DMO, which will integrate the 320 kilometers of beach and tell exactly what is required. Because the beach requirement, tourist providers who are required to service the tourists who are coming to coastal Karnataka, those tourist service providers will be very different from those who are in Hampi.
Correct.
But if I am going to train them in Hampi and push them into coastal area, and coastal area in Hampi, I think both sides will fail.
Yeah.
So, therefore, you have to look at the DMO. That is the reason why I am all the time being very, very proactive on the issue of saying that DMO has to be there.
Okay. So that's nice input from your end, because we have seen various aspects, whatever you've been saying through the literature reviews in global level, how DMO's different integral components are put together in one manifesto and taken up to the states.
So, therefore, it has to be.
There's also one component like destination audit, which has come like a mechanism in destination management. Has anything like that taken
not
on
yet.
Karnataka?
There is an audit and all that. There is an audit. We had wanted to take into the World Tourism Travel Council parameters. We wanted to look at the WTO parameters and all that. But undertaking those parameters, we are only going to show how far we are at the moment. But if there is no authority, there is not authority, if there is no organization like a DMO, conducting an audit is not going to be any use.
Okay.
Audits should start off. The first audit can be is where the DMO is more important. Let us say you have taken 100 destinations in Karnataka and you rank them in terms of the necessity of a DMO. The same audit which has to do on a DMO performance, those parameters can be taken to identify where a DMO is the most urgent.
Okay.
You could recommend to the government then, based upon the research, that amongst the 10 destinations or 15 destinations or 100 destinations, when you apply this audit as a pro bono initiative of the University of Karnataka, you can say that we would like to conduct this audit on a year basis, or once in 2 years you would like to conduct. Okay. So, for conducting the first report, you can ask for the government of Karnataka a grant that we would like to conduct a audit. They will ask what is the objective of the audit. The objective of the audit should be that this audit we are conducting it, though we know that there may not be a organized DMO available, but we will still conduct it, and by conducting it we will say which organization can actually play the role of a DMO. For example, Melkote temple. Is it the Muzrai department which should become the DMO there, or is the trust in the Melkote temple that should become the DMO there? There is an issue.
Correct.
So, somebody will have to do an audit. Let us say the Christ University picks up 10, based upon tourism statistics, the top 10 destinations, and then assess amongst the 10 which is the destination which urgently is crying for a DMO on the parameters on which you audit a DMO's performance.
With the ranking scores.
With the ranking scores and all that. Once that happens, then that report is available. And if it says very clearly that Joke Falls authority which is there is toothless, and it requires this under our assessment, then that becomes the blueprint for government of Karnataka to take a step forward, and you will help them in that way.
Okay. Sir, in our system of Karnataka, do we have a crisis management cell which can help destinations before landing up into any crisis?
I think the Karnataka Facilitation Act has a component in that one, but it's still not been activated. The reason it's not been activated is because the authorities who manage the various tourist destinations are wide and varied. The Muzrai department, the forest department, the social welfare department, the animal husbandry department, the agriculture department, the horticulture department, the irrigation department, the public works department, or the power energy department, or the power corporation. So anybody can be owner of any this one destination. That is why in tourism we are not looking for the authority brought under tourism. No, tourism can be a facilitator, and the only issue again I am saying is, whosoever is the authority in charge of tourist destination, first point, visitor management facility, is it, you have to do an audit on that first. Is the VMF proper or not? What is the parameter you are judging a VMF? First component. Second component on DMA is other facilities. Third component on DMA, marketing. Fourth component, web presence. Fifth component, like this way. So therefore, then you will be able to give you will give one of the best action plan to the government if you apply the concept of DMA.
So we've come across globally seeing like the Rwanda guerrilla tourism. New Zealand coming out with a strategic plan 2024.
Yeah, yeah.
So these are the various global plans which talks about high impact and low volume tourist.
Yeah, yeah.
So have we reflected any of these concepts into any of our policy or plans?
No, I'll put it like that. It's not very conscious, but the fact is this, that the wildlife tourism in Karnataka is actually looking into those issues which you talked about.
Okay. The strategy is like high volume and low impact.
No, that's what I'm saying. The whole aspect is that for a DMO to be succeeding under any aspect, first has to look at a carrying capacity.
Correct.
Now, when you look at a carrying capacity and there is a demand and supply relationship, the carrying capacity is going to limit the demand. So, if you want to have, if you want to visit Bandipur tomorrow, let us say, the carrying capacity will say, sorry, next 4 years you cannot come. The ability to implement that is important.
Okay.
Because the carrying capacity in Bandipur on a daily basis, we cannot allow more than 100 people. So, 100 into 365. Okay. So, 3,65,000 people can only visit Bandipur. They may be foreigners, they may be locals, they may be anybody. So, by definition, if I have a carrying capacity and go exactly by the book, I cannot allow more than 0.3 million tourists to Bandipur. Whereas, we are talking about bringing 10 million visitors to Bandipur.
Yeah.
So, the question comes up is that apart from Bandipur, we will have to push the flow to Bhadra. We may have to push the flow somewhere else, because Bandipur says no. For example, Karapur Lodge. Karapur Lodge has got 40 rooms. 40 rooms into 300 days. Okay. So, 12,000 visitors, nights. 12,000 nights is maximum it can handle. No, we cannot increase it to from 12,000 room nights to 20,000 room nights, because the carrying capacity is not available.
Okay.
So, therefore, what happens is, the first thing the Bandipur or Nagarhole people have to work out what is the carrying capacity which they do, and they have to make it popular down below. That, okay, all right, you can stay one night in Karapur, but the other 2 nights which you want to do will have to be done outside Karapur.
Okay.
So, if somebody wants to stay 3 nights in Karapur, he has to pay a much higher price than what it is.
Okay.
Otherwise, he has to stay only 1 night in Karapur and 2 nights somewhere else. Now, that is why a DMO is required. The carrying capacity of any beach also is limited.
True.
You can't have 25 million people coming to a beach.
So that's when strategies like high volume and low impact. So they look at destinations which can offer a limited crowd, but with a good impact and a good quality visitor experience would survive.
That is the carrying capacity.
Okay.
But in Government of Karnataka, most of these are all happening as a bits and pieces.
Okay. Sir, how do
It
you
calls for at the level of Karnataka itself, we have a Karnataka Tourism Vision Group. That's not sufficient. We require to have a Karnataka Tourism Board, which actually has this mandate of setting up the entire thing, where all the other departments also get involved.
Okay.
And this board then supports these other authorities, like an action plan. If you set up the visitor management facility and you do this carrying capacity, we fund you.
Okay. Do we have any such board of that kind?
No, there is a proposal, there was a proposal, but it was knocked down.
Okay. So where do you see, sir, academic institutions and academic fraternities who can bring in their theory building and researchers?
Yeah. This is the first aspect. Na?
Yeah.
First aspect. See, for example, let us say Mysore DMO is there. The University of Mysore and all that can be involved in University of in the DMO there, because we require language training, we require cultural training, we require awareness training, we require may I help you training, we require volunteers, we require an assessment to be done, we require an audit to be done.
So, as per your understanding, is there any such kind of coordination or any such kind of projects which has come to your end where you see, okay,
Not
this
me,
can
not
be
me.
taken?
I think so,
Me
but
in the
I think
sense the Karnataka government has anything, which is coming
I
to
did
your
not come
observation?
across when I was there in that area.
Okay.
But I think I'll take up that matter and I'll bring it to Mr. Mohandas Pai's notice.
Okay.
They are fully aware of the fact. What points you are raising, these points are not new.
Yeah.
These points are there. The challenge lies in how to get these points structured and implemented in a manner that everybody gets involved in it. That's the whole issue.
So that's why when we did the study of DMO, we found that here and there processes are there in the
All processes are there
on the
everywhere,
market.
yeah. But it's not strategic.
Yeah.
It's not strategic.
Okay.
So I am suggesting that let the university put up a proposal for an audit, what is known as a pre-project audit. Okay.
Okay.
There's let us say there's an ideal DMO somewhere, and you want to audit the performance of DMO. So you'll have certain parameters on which you are going to audit it.
Okay.
Bring those parameters before the DMO is set up. Identify 10 tourist destinations and say that where this DMO is most required, not suitable, most required. And then look at that. So if you take 10 destinations and take the DMO performance test together, you will get a ranking. In the ranking, there will be some destinations which will come up. This is the most ideal destination which can deliver the DMO with the least cost and the maximum impact.
Okay. So lastly, I would like to know the role of KTVG. How did the idea conceived, and how does KTVG has contributed to the current tourism policy?
See, I will put it like this way. Any organization, any sector, from time to time has to relook at what it is wanting to do. Any organization, whichever the organization may be, how big or how small the organization may be, at the end of the day, it has to always revisit its vision document.
Correct.
There are hundreds of documents which have come up in Karnataka as to what should be done in tourism, both in terms of infrastructure, in terms of services, in terms of all what you have been talking about, not necessarily in a structured format like DMO.
Yeah.
Whether we should promote golf tourism, whether we should promote heritage tourism, whether we should promote adventure tourism, whether we should promote blah blah blah, hundreds of different tourisms. Having said that one, the question comes up is that the way you are saying that an audit should be done, there was a need for doing an audit and seeing whether we are frittering away resources, or the resource being limited, we should utilize it where the maximum impact is. So it was when doing this particular exercise, this matter came up for discussion. And since the new government had come, it was the ideal time for setting up a new vision document, because an old government will resist. They say, no, already you are done, why are you doing it again? So when the new government came, they also wanted to put up a new input. So we thought that those people who are involved in the IT policy of Karnataka, industrial policy of Karnataka, they should be able to give a fresh breath of air. And it's better to have a third party assessment there rather than my assessment or individual assessment, because we ultimately tend to protect ourselves. We will say what we are doing is best and all that one. Better somebody else tells outside. That's how Mr. Mohandas Pai, Kiran Majumdar, others and all that came in. They bring in management expertise and all that. They can identify what is going wrong and all that one. So the policy came up, and that input started coming into the tourism policy. That input came into the Facilitation Act. That came into various issues and all that one. Yes, there is a long road. Or setting up an organization, getting the culture fixed in the organization, and then getting the right people itself is a major task. Sometimes the government is unable to do that completely, or stand by the person team which has been asked to lead the group. So continuity, identifying the right people, standing behind them, allowing them the freedom to do the work. I think these are the issues which are going to face tourism department. And hopefully that the public, the private people, they are not going to wait for all this, and things will change. And if the government does not do it, somebody in the private sector will do it, short of the regulatory authority. Thank you very much.
Well, with this we come to the end of this discussion. Thank you so much for taking time for our audience, and thank you so much.
Once again, I would like to thank the management. I would like to thank Christ University for giving me the opportunity to come and speak here. I look forward to further interactions, and if there is any feedback, I am willing to answer those questions. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.